understand that women are a different creature. Like, women, definitely, you have to understand women. And this is, I understand them, I just can't deal with them very wisely. You know, because I understand how women are, but it doesn't make me any better. It doesn't give me a better chance at being, you know, wise. So I learned a lot about women through the relationship in the first year, and we had our first son. And my wife's background was Yemeni. And so we had a son, and I ended up going to Taiwan to teach English because I wanted to make some money to pay off my debts. So I went to Taiwan December 2000, January 2000, and I went there for almost 2 years. And alhamdulillah, I brought some of the brothers there, and there's still brothers there today. There was about total of about 10 of us, around 10 of us that went there, and I brought all these people there because they were in the same boat as me. Graduated high school, not very much education, but Taiwan will pay you $20 an hour minimum if you're anybody from North America and you speak good English. So I started making $23 an hour cash and started making money in Taiwan. And then when I brought the brothers, I started making $27 an hour cash, and I was making really good money. But I came back because I wasn't allowed to wear my sunnah. I carried my beard, but I really, you know, I feel naked if I'm not dressed like you see me dressed. I this everywhere I go, and I don't do it to praise myself. I do it to let you know that this is who I am. I don't change whether I'm in my redneck city or I'm here or I'm there. This is just who I am. And when I was in Taiwan, the money was great, but I felt that I was selling out my religion for a little bit of extra money. And so I made dua I went for Umrah, and I made dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows me to always wear my sunnah for the rest of my life, inshallah. So I came back and from Umrah after Taiwan was finished, and it was the greatest experience of my life, and that was around September 4th, 2002. And I got back September 4th, and my dad died September 11th, 2002. So it was like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, with hardship bring ease. So I had some really good times, and that was a real big loss. So it was a roller coaster, and it was tough for the first few hours that my dad died. And I honestly, my first few hours, because I trust in Allah. Allah knows best for my father. So the first couple hours I wished he accepted, but I dealt with it, you know, accordingly, and I trusted in Allah. And then I just kept making dua for my mother. And you see, my father, he used to criticize Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda and say everything that CNN says. And I don't want to make any, I already made this statement before, I don't know who blew up the buildings. Whoever did it, I don't believe in it. But I certainly am not going to take CNN's word over a Muslim's word. And I don't know what he says about it, but he's my Muslim brother, and until I hear anything from him, I don't care what George Bush says. And by the way, I invited CSIS here tonight, the Canadian CIA. So don't think that we're not allowed to tell it the way it is, because we're not obligated to trust George Bush or anyone like that. And by the way, if I found out he did do it, I wouldn't agree with it. But I'm just saying, I'm open, my mind's open. So my dad criticized Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda a lot and thought that I was heading down that path. And really, I don't have the same ideologies as those people. But I understand some of the points he's saying in fundamental Islam. So my father was criticizing him, and after he died, my father came to me in a dream afterwards, and he told me that he was in the 6th level of the hellfire, and that Al-Qaeda were in the El-Firdaus. So, I mean, it's just a dream. It's not, like I said before, not to start a revolution, but I'm telling you that to let you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is most just. In this world, my dad was putting down who I believe are Muslims, and then in the next life, he had to come back and say he was wrong, and that he was the one who was in the hellfire, not them. So, and Allahu A'lam who Al-Qaeda is. Like, I'm just being straight with you, I don't know. But those are the words of my father after he died. So after that, I ended up going to Mauritania to study, and I took my wife and we went to Mauritania with a few brothers, and that's where Desmond ties in, because I took her brother and another brother from this mosque, Ibrahim, and they've been there for about 1.5 years now studying. So I came back, and it's a different world in Mauritania. I mean, like I said, Hamza, literally he has 2 goats and he has in his yard. He used to have 3, but the landlord said he has too many goats. So it's a true story, and they said you have to get rid of one of his goats, and he's upset about that because that was his favorite goat he had to let go of. Hamza's there studying right now, and we went there looking for a place to memorize Quran and raise a family, because I felt like if I could be away from the distractions of this country for a few years, maybe I could come back and have a little bit of a stronger faith and a better knowledge to give the message on a higher level, inshallah. So I came back and I ended up going for Hajj. Myself, my wife, and my mother-in-law, we went for Hajj. That was 2003, so not this Hajj, the Hajj before. And during Hajj, it was, alhamdulillah, it was a great experience, a lot of people. And I came back and I just decided that I wasn't going to go to Mauritania if I had to rely on somebody from overseas giving me money. Because I didn't want to jeopardize that person, that they, maybe in the country that he lives in, they could make a story about him like he was sponsoring Al-Qaeda or the Taliban. So I decided we'll come back to this country and we'll make a business, and indirectly we'll help new Muslims go study overseas, and they'll just sign a waiver that they're not politically with any organizations, they just want to memorize the Quran and learn fiqh, and that we're not tied to any groups. So by doing this, I got back from Hajj, and CSIS had already been watching me. And so, that's the Canadian CIA. So they were watching me, and I ended up going to Egypt to buy attar. And I was buying attar to sell it to the Muslims to raise the money for myself and my family to go study overseas. And when I went to Egypt, it was the time of the war in Iraq, and I saw it was pretty emotional for me because I really love the Muslims, and I know the condition's tough of the Muslims right now, but I was seeing like 3-year-old babies with 3/4 of their brains blown out. And that was, the Arabic news was showing stuff like that. We don't get any of that. And I said, yeah, okay, it's like my marriage. Sure, why not? I'm not doing anything. And I ended up going, and what I did was, I went to the airport, and I was going to go to Syria, then take a bus to Iraq. And when I went to the Syrian embassy, they said, so why are you going? And I was like, I don't know, Syrian embassy, maybe, I said, I'm going in the way of Allah. So I put that on my application. So they said, you going for jihad? I said, yeah. They said, may Allah be with you. So this was the embassy, and then they said, we're next, about Iraq. They said, we're next. They're going to come after us next. So I went to the airport, and it was 20 minutes before the flight, and 45 minutes before the flight, you have to be there. And I was there 20 minutes before the flight. The guy in the Egypt airport said, sorry, brother, we can't do anything. And I said, listen, brother, if you don't let me on that plane, United States is going to surround Iraq, and I'm not going to get into Baghdad. He said, jihad? Jihad. Brother's going for jihad. In his language. And they stopped the plane, and I went through the Egyptian airport, and I understand a little bit of Arabic, but you hear the guys look at me, jihad. Jihad. So that everybody's talking about it as I'm going through. I didn't even have to go through customs for them to stamp, and I got on the plane without a boarding pass, which, like I said, never happens after September 11th. So I take Syrian Airlines to Syria, and I got in the country no problem, and I went to Masjid al-Amawi. So anyone from Syria, they know Damascus. Masjid al-Amawi is a very popular mosque. And I went there and met up with some brothers and went to the Iraqi embassy. And the Iraqi embassy is about maybe from here to, not even from here to Tim Hortons away from the U.S. Embassy. So every morning Iraq would line up busloads of people in front of the embassy. Not everybody was filling the bus, but they just wanted to show like thousands of people were going to fight in Iraq. So I went there and they gave me the visa, and to go to Iraq, you have to understand my intention. I intended to go to Iraq for humanitarian purposes, in the sense that I refused to pick up a gun. What I did was I took a sword, because I believe the Mahdi is going to come with a sword. And it's our faith that will beat the non-Muslims if it's in that level of fighting. It's not going to be the weapons of mass destruction. It's our faith, because when the Mahdi comes, he'll fight with a sword. So I went there refusing to take a gun, but I wanted to stay in the mosque. So Iraqi embassy offered me a free bus trip there. So they made me the emir of the bus, and I didn't even speak their language. So on the way there, Syria was telling the truth, by the way. They took all the Syrians off the bus when we got to the border. They wouldn't let their own people go fight in Iraq. attack. So, just a little bit of information. But I argued with the guy at the border. He had a gun, Kalashnikov or whatever, and he said, the Syrian's off the bus. I said, listen, your leader's a munafiq. You don't let him in. We got to fight jihad. Get out of my face. These guys thought he was going to shoot me. The brother, he gets down. He's like, but they're going to kill me if I let them in, So they took the Syrians off the bus and let us go to Baghdad. So on the way to Baghdad, Fajr prayer is coming, and I said to everybody, okay, we should pray two rakats nafil prayer, that Allah makes our trip easy to Baghdad, because the British and Americans were controlling the road, and if they pulled me over and my passport, Canadian, white guy, they're going to say I'm the next John Walker, right? So I try to tell the brothers to pray 2 rakats.